everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are very excited today. We have a special guest, and this is our bonus episode of the podcast. We're kind of had a free week here in September before fall harvest really started as far as our coverage. And so we're thinking of some fun things that we could do. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and I'm delighted to have my friend Suey from the KPOP Konverters YouTube channel is here, and we are going to talk all about KDramas today. We thought that it would have some similarities between the Hallmarkies audience, and it might be just kind of a fun thing to explore for this bonus episode. And Suey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. So much fun. Yay.
Yes. We've been friends in real life for quite a while. That it's been, I don't know, at least, wow, I don't know, 5-6 years at least.
Yeah, 5 or 6, I'd say.
Yeah. And so this was really fun for me to see you become, have your YouTube channel and to become so engrossed in the world of K-pop. That was something I had never heard of before until you introduced it to me. And so why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and about your channel and what you guys do?
All right, Case. I'm Suey from the KPOP Konverters, like you said. It's our YouTube channel that we've been doing for about 4.5 years now, I think. Mm. And I started it with my sister Megs and my daughter Toto and our friend Rin. And Megs got me and my daughter into KDramas about 5 years ago. It's almost been now. And one of her friends made her watch them around Thanksgiving time 5 years ago. And she watched them nonstop for an entire month, all through December. And then on Christmas Day of that year, she drugged me to the computer, literally, and said, "You need to watch this." And I'm like, "No, I really don't think I need to." And then she's like, "No, you need to." And I'm like, "No." So anyway, she made me sit down, and she's like, "Let's just watch this one episode, and then you can see what you think." And so she made me watch one. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, I think I get what you're talking about here. That was really fun. And we watched another episode. And then after she left, I continued to watch that. And pretty soon I had watched the whole thing. And I was like, okay, what do I watch next? And it was awesome. And I just fell in love pretty much right off the bat, just like she knew I would. And it was like 2 weeks later that she was watching a drama that happened to have a guy in it that she was really intrigued with. So she looked him up and found out he was in a band and looked that up. And she sent me a song she found. She's like, "How about you listen to this? I bet you would like this." And so that was the day our lives really changed. And we found K-pop. Because a lot of times these two things go hand in hand, because a lot of the K-pop guys are stars on the K-dramas. So sometimes people find one and then the other, or, it can go either way. But for us, it was K-drama for just a little bit. And then we found the K-pop, and then our lives changed. And we want to talk about it so much that's when we thought, okay, we're going to start a YouTube channel where we can just talk about what we're learning and discovering. And we just wanted to fangirl and gush about everything. And that the channel has morphed from that discovery thing to now where we're doing all kinds of other things. And we do a lot of reactions on the channel. We did a lot of reactions, I should say, but now we've kind of moved away from that a little bit, and we do more, I don't even know how to describe what we do, compilations and edits. And we just take things that we find on YouTube that we love, and we make mashups of them and just do edits of them, of things that we love, and try to teach people about groups. And sometimes we have discussion and vlog type videos. We used to have concert vlogs. Of course, we haven't been able to go to a concert for this whole year. We went to a couple in January. So, but yeah, concert vlogs are one of our favorite things to do too. So I guess
so I didn't know that you got the K-drama first, and then the K-pop.
Yeah, for me, it was only a couple weeks. It didn't take long. For my sister, it was like a month. And all of a sudden she was like, "What is this music I've just found?" But Yeah, and I was going to say on the channel, we do have some K-drama stuff. It's very much more about K-pop on the channel, but we've done some reviews of K-dramas, and I have put together some of our favorite songs from K-dramas, and I've got a playlist on there of our favorite my favorite K-drama kisses.
Oh.
It's really fun. I don't think anybody else has contributed to that playlist. It's mostly me just going through finding the kisses on the YouTube and putting them in a playlist. So yeah. So there's some K-drama stuff on there, but it's mostly K-pop. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And,
so
and if people want to find that, I was going to say it's K-pop Konverters, and the Konverters is with a K. If people want to find that.
And yeah, we'll have all that in the description so people can take a look at Yeah. So had you had any like familiarity with Korea at all, or was you kind of the whole culture was new to you?
Absolutely brand new. Yeah. Nothing. I thought at that point I had never really been that interested in Asian culture. Mm-hmm. So, and it was very foreign to me at that point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But wow, that's changed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am more familiar with the anime scene, although I would certainly not consider myself an expert over in Japan. And, that I know kind of a little bit, at least, about all of that over but the whole K-drama thing has all been new since I've seen what you guys do on it, and this is my first series that we watched, my first K-drama series. So that was pretty fun. It's fun to get out of your comfort zone, try something new, and to experience another culture. I think is really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's great.
And of course, we all saw the South Korean filmmaking got a big push this last year with Parasite, winning Best Picture. So that was pretty exciting.
That was very exciting. And some of our K-drama actors are in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was awesome. It was awesome.
I loved that movie. I thought it was so good.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really unusual movie because it's very entertaining for like your mass appeal kind of audience, but then it's also really good for like your art house, film snob, cinema kind of people too. It's just
it's crossing over it to get everybody, right?
And that's hard to find. It's hard to find that thing that just pretty much everybody likes. It was just it had something to say, but it wasn't too overbearing with it. It had it had characters that were complex. Like there was really no. I think you're supposed to maybe not like the rich families much, but I still felt for them, and they weren't just one note villains like they could have been. Like they had a perspective, and I felt for them too. And certainly the poor family is not 100% likable, so that makes them interesting. And so I think it's a really great movie, and I was so excited that it won Best Picture just because it's so rare that the movie I actually think is the best movie of the year actually wins. Like, what? That never happens. Ever. Like,
I know, it was a great day.
I know, and usually I'm just like, it was, I liked it. It was a good movie. That's fine.
That's funny.
But anyway, so that was exciting. And so let's talk about kind of what K-drama is to people who are unfamiliar with it.
Okay.
And I maybe this is incorrect, but going into it, I kind of thought of it as sort of telenovelas, but for Korea, is that not correct?
So that's what most people think. Mm-hmm. But to me, that's not. I'm not that familiar with telenovelas, but basically you're talking Spanish soap operas, right?
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people think that K-dramas are just like soap operas, which in my head, soap operas are like daytime TV here, right? Mm-hmm. To me, they're not that at all. What they are is just what's on TV in Korea. It's what the big stations in Korea are airing on TV. Mm-hmm. And it's what everybody's watching there. It's what people are watching on TV, and there's like 3 or 4 big stations, and they're all putting out the dramas. So it's basically Korean TV.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that most of them are, they say K-drama, but would you say that there's a variety in that as far as some of them more comedic, or are they all kind of a similar sort of tone and feel?
There's a huge variety. Most people think of them right off the bat as romantic comedies, rom-coms. That's a big part of them. That's what I love mostly. But there are thriller, crime, mystery, thriller, lawyer, courtroom intrigue ones that are very popular, that have little or no romance element to them at all. It's all about the plot and the mystery that they're solving or whatever. There's a lot of those. And then there's ones that are historical ones of period pieces, mostly the Joseon time period, which is similar to Victorian era in England or whatever. But I'm not exactly sure if the years match up, but what I'm saying is that's just the popular time period that people really, really love to go back to. And there's tons of dramas that take place in that time period. A lot of people love those. They're very dramatic. Those ones are. Some of them are silly and fun too, though. And then there's like fantasy paranormal ones that you have your ghosts or your supernatural characters or your, time travel, or there was a popular one just on that had a parallel universe. So there's a lot of things like that have a little bit of a fantastical element to them.
That does kind of, in a way, make me think of anime, because a lot of people are just like, oh, I don't like anime. And I'm like, how can you say that? Because there's so many different kinds. There's every different kind of tone and feel and style. Some of them use more watercolors. Some of them use, I think a lot of times what people say when they say they don't like anime is they're saying they don't like things like Pokemon and Digimon and those kinds of series.
Right.
As opposed to, something like My Neighbor Totoro or, Grave of the Fireflies, or just stuff that, like, one's a war movie, one's a sweet little film for children. There's everything all over the place. Kira is like dystopian, that's pretty violent and bloody. I mean, there's just a lot of variety in the world of anime. So a lot of times when I hear that, people say that, I think you just haven't found the right anime. Unless you just hate animation, then there's no hope for you. I get that. But if you're open to animation, then I think that there is an anime film for everybody. And so I think that's probably kind of a similar experience.
Now, is anime and manga the same sort of thing, or some anime is based on manga? Like, what's the connection between those two?
So manga is like the books, it's kind of like comic books.
All right.
But and there are a lot of anime that are based on manga.
Okay, so what I was going to say is there are a lot of KDramas that are based on manga also.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of they even have some mangas that are then based off of anime. So sometimes it goes the other way, back and forth. So that's what the mangas are, and there's some for like little kids.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I could say that some K-dramas are based off anime, but I think it's more that they're based off of manga.
Yeah.
And there's our web dramas that were really popular or something. Web, what do they call them? Comics, web.
Do most of the K-drama, are they set in Korea, or do some of them in Japan, some of them in
okay, well, there are Japanese dramas and Taiwanese dramas and Chinese dramas. So, like, if it was set in Japan and it's Japanese, then that'd be a J-drama.
Oh, okay.
But like K-dramas, the ones that are actually Korean dramas, mostly set in Korea. I have watched some that they'll bounce around to other parts of the world depending on whatever the story going on in the story. So, and they travel a bit, but most of them are in Korea.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do most of them, of the K-dramas, do most of them only last one season?
Right. Pretty much all of them. There's only a handful that I know of that have other seasons, that go on to other seasons. And even the ones that I know of, the seasons are short. So like Kingdom, it's on Netflix. It's really popular right now. Like the first season has 6, 7, or 8 episodes. And then the second season has like 8. So it's basically the same length now as a regular season. But, there's just a time period in between the two of them. But there's only a handful that I know of that have gone on to more seasons. But that's one of the things that people love the most about K-dramas, is that they have this time period, this length, and they get done, and they don't go on forever and ever for so many seasons like so many Western and American shows do.
Yeah, I mean that is different than anime then, because these anime shows can go on like One Piece or Digimon, Pokemon. These shows can go on for forever. I mean, there's some that have been going on since the 80s, literally. I forget the name that my friend was telling me the other day that has been on since the 80s. I'm just like, what? And so I agree. I think that's appealing. It's one of the reasons why I've always been more of a movie fan versus a television fan, is because I find that most television shows have about 2 good seasons in them.
Yeah.
And the rest is like, some good episodes. But I think a really great show has 4 good seasons in it, and then the rest are kind of we were talking the difference between like K-dramas is kind of right in the middle, so you get longer than a movie, so you have more time to develop the character and the story, but then you don't drag it on as long as a huge multiple season thing. And the other thing I like is that the K-dramas feel like it's like reading a book, so it's longer. Like movies are shorter, so doesn't give you that book feel. Whereas a K-drama is like reading a book, for a week or so. How it would take you about that long to read a book or whatever. It fulfills the exact same need for me that books do, and I find them very, very similar. So and like I said, they're just long enough to give it enough time for the character development to build up, and for that perfect arc for those characters in the plot. One of the things I noticed about the one that we watched, and we'll talk more about it, but I noticed it is very, very clean. Very, like even the kisses were very chaste.
Yes.
Pecs kind of thing.
Yeah. This one was particularly clean. Some of them are a little more kissy, I would say, but they're all still very clean. Everything takes place. If something happens, it's always behind a closed door. They leave it up to your imagination. Rarely any skin is going on. I saw one time where he was actually starting to unbutton her shirt, and I thought I was going to die because I had never seen that in a K-drama. And then he stopped. I mean, he didn't go very far. And anyway, some of them are a little bit more involved than others, but they're all still very clean. So
Yeah, I was like, boy, I mean, that's obviously similar to Hallmark. Is the Hallmark shows are very, very, very clean, and I'm like, that's a lot of cuddling going on for people that are.
I love it. So that's my favorite.
Yeah.
That just romantic cuddling, and we always talk about how we get so worked up about a hand holding thing. Like I think I noticed you were talking about the hand holding. Like it was a big deal, and it always is in a K-drama. Hand holding and the first kiss, you're so excited for the first kiss to finally happen. Like I said, this one left me a little bit disappointed in the kissing department, just because and I was thinking about that, and I think it's because the age difference in those actors is 10 years. I looked it up. That might make them a little nervous when the actual actors are that far apart in age, so that they keep those kisses a little cleaner, even.
Yeah, I mean, they were closed mouth pecs.
Because I know that this actor he's done some other dramas where it's not quite so chaste.
Am I wrong in thinking the biggest group is the BTS? That the
K-pop
biggest
group?
The K-pop group?
That's the one that's most popular right now,
Yeah. So all right, well, let's dive into, we'll talk more kind of about other tropes as we talk about this one, I think. And so we decided to review and to take a look at Romance is a Bonus Book, and this is available on Netflix. So it's pretty widely available to everybody. And it's 16 episodes, and these are pretty long episodes. I was telling you that kind of surprised me, because I'm just used to, if something's a 1 hour show, it's when you watch it without the ads, it's about 44 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is very typical of a drama to be hour-long episodes, 16 episodes long. That's really typical. Sometimes you have ones that are half-hour-long episodes, but then they'll have 32. episodes, and then there's some that are a little shorter, and then there's some that are like an hour and a half long. So it varies, but this is pretty typical.
Do you typically binge the K-dramas?
I'm not very good. A lot of people binge, but I am not very good at binging. I like to watch a drama episode a day. And sometimes I'll be watching older dramas like this one where all the episodes are available. And sometimes I'm watching new dramas that are just being aired. And so every week we're waiting for new episodes to drop. And then we have to wait for them to get subbed. And so it's fun to watch those and then watch an older one in between on the other days. But normally I watch 1 or 2 episodes a day just because I have other things going on, and I want to keep my books going on, and so my reading, because this does take place of reading for me, and so that's why my book reading has dropped a lot and my dramas go up. But I try to fit them all in, and it's really hard.
How soon do they get that new episode to the States?
Do they come the very day? I think that they come.
Oh, fast.
They come on the day they are available on the day that they're available in Korea, but then you have to wait about a day for the subtitles to show up.
Do you watch it just on YouTube or?
I watch on a site called Viki, Viki.
Okay.
And that one you can watch things for free there if you can deal with the ads. And then there's some things that aren't available, but a lot of things are available for free. But I do the subscription thing. It's just like buying Netflix or Hulu or whatever. And then Netflix. So I'm just using those 2 places, Netflix and Viki. There's others, and there used to be one that everybody watched called Drama Fever, but they died. I don't know. They just went away. But since they went away, Netflix has picked up tons. And so Netflix is picking up the slack. But like I said, there's some other places too that people use. So, and
now
really fast
Netflix is calling this a Netflix original show, but it aired in Korea.
Yes, I don't understand that. Maybe it's because they are the only ones that have rights to show it here or something, but they didn't put it on. No, it's still done by those TV stations and TV networks in Korea that I was talking about. Yeah,
it was kind of interesting to see like the heavy product placement.
Oh yeah,
and it's the
Subway. It's one of my favorite things about K-dramas too. It's like every drama will have a Subway, a Dyson vacuum, some makeup products. I noticed the coffee machine in this one.
Yes,
big time.
The pods.
Sometimes it's really blatant, and sometimes they're a little more subtle about it. But it's pretty funny. Yeah. They put those sponsors put a lot of money into K-dramas.
Yeah, I was like, they wouldn't do that. I guess that you don't typically see that on Netflix.
That's funny.
So I was like, I think this aired in it was pretty funny. And also, I think you saw some of it's a heavy look at the car. I forget what kind of cars, but because I'm not a car person, but
I was going to say I'm not
sure
a car person
that was
either,
product placement.
I don't even notice. But yeah, probably. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. They usually list underneath. I don't know if this one does, but they usually list underneath all the brands that sponsored, and at the end of the show, all those brand names will fly by in credits. But
so, well, first of all, so you're revisiting this show, and how did you like it? Is it held up for you?
Yeah, I really liked it. I was interested to know if I would like it as much the second time around. But my problem is I don't remember things very well. So I'm watching it going, when is that stupid first kiss? I don't understand. I should know when this happens, and I can't even remember. And so there's a lot of stuff that felt new to me again the second time around. But I loved the setting, the book publishing company, because I love books so much. And this second time around, I was like, I remember how much I loved how important books were to these characters. And so that held up. I'm like, that's so awesome. I just love that part.
That was fun. Sometimes it was a little hard for me to keep track of who was who and what characters were.
And that's probably because it's your first time.
Yeah, probably because it's my first time. Yeah,
it's easier when you get more used to their names and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. And the pacing was just it took me a little bit to get used to the pacing.
Was a little slow.
It was a little slow for me, the pacing. Well, especially in the middle. The first, it starts out being kind of at the beginning, it starts out being kind of wacky, and she's hiding. She's living in his house without him realizing it, which is funny.
Right.
And so and then it kind of changes, and that we'll talk a little bit more about one part that I still 100% didn't quite think worked, but it was interesting. It becomes darker, and but then there's also the humor, and so it changes throughout the course of but I would say the middle parts were maybe a little bit slow for me, but I overall enjoyed it, and it was really cool to see something from another culture and just have a different experience, because most of what I watch is the same kind of things over and over again. So this was interesting to do. I think I read that this actor, the lead actor, is a pretty big name.
Oh,
He's pretty famous. Lee Jong Suk.
Yeah, you don't say the L. Jong Suk. I can never say the last part of his name correctly, but E is his family name. The family name always comes first in Korean names.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they have to put an L on it to Romanize it for us, but the L is not, it's a silent. So Lee Jong Suk is how his name is said. And he's huge.
Yeah,
huge.
I could tell.
There's I'd say there's maybe, there's a lot of really popular actors, but there's probably 5 or 10 that are really, really big names, and he's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he just barely, was it just barely? I feel like it was just barely, but time flies. Went on his military service. All the boys in Korea have to do about 2 years worth of military service.
Oh.
And so it's a big deal. It's part of the culture. It's part of what we as fans deal with, because our guys, our K-pop guys, our K-drama guys, we know that they're going to have to leave sometime, and they don't really leave. Like, they're still in their country and whatever, but they have to completely give up their careers to dedicate their service to the military.
Wow. So even the celebrities and stuff,
even the celebrities. And so I think he just left a little bit ago, and they have to do it before they turn 30 somewhere and the celebrities usually wait till the very end. Most of the boys do it towards the early 20s, but celebrities wait till they're almost 30. And so I think he just went a little bit ago, last year maybe, or a few, I don't even know. Gosh, I should have looked that up. So then we wait for him to come back, and usually when they come back, then they make their grand entrance back into the industry again, and it's really fun to have them back.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
He's currently gone right now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you could kind of tell. Do most of these shows have a female protagonist as the lead, or it just depends?
There's usually just both a female and male lead. Yeah.
Okay.
Together.
Because that's with Hallmark. 99.9% of all of the movies have a female protagonist. It's their lead story, and then there's a love interest, obviously.
So you feel like
this one did.
You feel like the story is more revolving around the girl always. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that in K-dramas, it can go back and forth between revolving around one or the other. But for the most part, in my mind anyway, it's kind of an equal thing. You end up learning the stories and the backgrounds of both characters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that much.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit of kind of just the basic overall plot of the show, if they want to check it out. So
it's about a girl, our lead protagonist, who, when we first meet her, we learn that she's been in a marriage that she seems like a loveless marriage, right? And it starts out when she's trying to get away from her wedding, and we see our main guy as her friend at that point, and then we flash forward 11 years and to the present time, and we see that she's been divorced, she's kind of destitute, she doesn't have a job, she can't get a job, her house is being demolished, she has no place to go, she's really, really, really down, and nobody will hire her because she's been out of the career scene for whatever they said it was, 7 years or something, and she's really down on her luck. and she's still friends with the guy that we met at the beginning, but she's not telling him what's going on. So she ends up using his house as a place to hang out, and so the premise is that she needs him, and he'll be there for her no matter what, but she hasn't told him what's going on. And then she ends up getting his job in the publishing company where he is the chief editor and also their biggest author. And she ends up getting kind of the peon job, and she fakes her resume to look like she doesn't have the experience that she has. And so then she finally gets the job. Mm-hmm. And so then, we just follow her progression from there, and how he ends up finding out what's going on, and they end up, so they're living together, and he's loved her all these many years, and she's only thought of him as a little brother. And so then we just watch their romance develop, and how she all of a sudden realizes that there's more to him than she thought. And then we just see her grow in finding her place in the career world again. Yeah. So, and then we get backstories in K-dramas. There's always the backstory. So then we get the backstory of the author the mysterious author who we don't know what's going on with, and how he's connected to our main guy. And then we have the secondary characters, and there's always a second love interest. So we learn his story, and I guess that's basically.
I think that's good. You described it well. I think they could have, and again, this probably because I'm green, but they could have done a better job of making it more clear what was a flashback and what was not. Especially things with Mr. King and some of that stuff. It was confusing about what was happening. And what part of that was flashback and what part of it was happening. And so that got a little bit, for me, it was a little confusing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and we're going to give some spoilers. So if you want to go watch the show and listen to the rest of the podcast later, understandable. So the big theme of the show, as you said, is, or one of the themes, is that women returning to the workforce after raising children. And would you say that's a unique theme to this show, something different?
I think it's unique to this show. Yeah. There's a lot of shows that revolve around the workplace, and there's several shows, I would say, where it's women's place in the workplace. Mm-hmm. But this particular theme of somebody coming back after being gone for a while, I don't know that I've ever seen in another one. But so yeah, I think that's specific to this one. Mm-hmm. But like I said, workplace shows are huge. So, yeah. And just the dynamics of the workplace and all the, mm-hmm. bosses versus the workers, and all that. That's a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and at least from my study of Japan, that their work environments are more group oriented mm-hmm. than our work environments are. Like I know that some of my Latter-day Saint friends in Japan struggle because they don't go out to the bars and to the things after, which is just sort of expected as part of the group, being part of the group.
Right.
And so when you're not a part of the group, that's very hard socially. Yeah. And so I think you got a feel of that here with this sort of group environment. Everybody's basically in the same room except for the two head bosses. And there's a sense of when one person messes up, that it's not just a personal problem, it's you betrayed the entire group. Mm-hmm. Which I noticed, particularly when I think her name is Yi, the young one, the youngest girl with
the silly funny girl, Ji Yul.
Yeah. That when she messes up on that professor's biography in the book, and they have to put the stickers in, that's the sense of you let down the whole group. It's not just a personal failing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's pretty typical.
Yeah, that's interesting. to me. And the one thing I thought was sort of weird, and maybe this is a cultural thing, so they have to have her have a child in order that she took the years off of work because of her child, but her child is at boarding school and she's almost never brought up.
Right. That bugged me about this drama, and I think this is just a particular thing about this drama. There are so many dramas with kids in them, and the kids are amazing actors. Like, usually the kids steal a show, but it just depends on what story they want to tell and if they want the kids to be part of it, I think. And I guess in this particular one, her daughter was not going to be part of their story, so
I think they should have
sent her
at
off to
least
boarding school.
yeah, I think they should have at least had her FaceTime or something, you know.
She did FaceTime her that one time. You remember the one time she FaceTimed her?
Yeah, and then there was also the one episode where she gets mad at the secondary love interest that I think his name was June. June. That she gets mad at him because he sort of hesitates when she says that she has a child. And
right. She was prepared for that response from him.
Yeah. And
that was funny.
Yeah, but that's really the only episode where her having her daughter is kind of a plot point, really hard. It's just kind of not.
Yeah.
Might as well be a single woman.
I felt like that was an annoying thing too. It did bother me.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think that was just this particular drama. Somebody, the director, writer, whoever, chose to have the kid not be really part of it. But there's so many dramas where there's amazing child actors, and I love it. It's really great when kids are part of the show. Yeah. And a lot of times there's dramas where there's flashbacks. Like this one had a little bit of a flashback to their childhood, where how they met when she saved him. She saved him, right?
She saved him from an auto accident, and then she ended up in the hospital
because she ended up getting hit.
and so
and then they
became friends.
Yeah, and so that was just a little bit of this story. Some K-dramas, there's tons of flashbacks to when they're kids, and so then you have got your kid actors portraying our main actors as kids throughout the whole thing. So
yeah, and she also took him out on his taught him how to drink.
That was hilarious.
That was a funny scene.
Yeah.
That was a funny scene. And so they have this big age difference. You said to me that was a kind of a common trope in K-drama?
It's what we call a Nuna Romance, and the Nuna is what boys call their big sisters. And so he thinks of her as his Nuna throughout all these many years, ever since they met when he was, 11 or 12 years old, and so he called her Nuna all these years. And so when you have a K-drama where the guy is younger and the girl is older, we call them Nuna Romances. And there's a few of them. Most of them aren't like this. It's just a fun trope, like you'd say. That some people are like, hey, tell me your favorite Nuna Romance, and then everybody will list the ones that they know that are like this, but most of them are not necessarily like this. So
did you think they had great chemistry, the two actors?
I did. I've seen better.
Mm-hmm. I didn't think they had the best chemistry. It wasn't a deal breaker or anything because there's enough going on, but I actually think she kind of had a little bit better chemistry with the other guy.
Really?
With June. I don't know. I just felt, especially, I thought the meet cute for them was really cute, with her losing her shoe in the rain and then him bringing it back, and I thought that was all really pretty cute.
Right. And like I think I told you, another really this is pretty much in every drama. We call it second lead syndrome, and it's where you fall in love with the second lead and you think that she would do better with the second lead guy instead of the main lead guy. Mm-hmm. And some of them are worse than others, where you are just like, this is so wrong. She should totally be with the other guy. And the other guy is so much nicer and better. But I've talked about this in some class or something, where the first guy is actually better for her because of his flaws. Like you don't want the perfect guy, you want the guy with the flaws. So
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting discussion we had that one time.
Yeah, well, this is fine because they give another character they give a romance for the secondary character, which I liked.
Right.
It was Song Hae-rin.
Song Hae-rin.
Hae-rin.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hae-rin.
she was really fun, and she also works at the publishing company. He is a graphic designer, I guess you'd say, an artist.
Yeah.
For book covers.
Right.
And then she is I thought that the whole thing with like, I keep ending up in your neighborhood. Why am I in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of funny.
She was hilarious. She was one of those characters where it starts out and you think she's really kind of mean and not fun, and then she ends up having this great personality and she's just hilarious.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a satisfactory ending for our secondary character.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of dramas where they do end up happy and you're like, okay, good. It all worked out how it was supposed to happen, and he got a girl, and it just wasn't the girl he thought he was going to get at the first, and yeah, that happens a lot.
And the Song character, her parents run a dumpling store.
Right.
And so that was kind of funny. Like she has this freak out session once because the dumplings are overcooked, and she's like, "How could you let me down?"
Yeah, that was a big reveal when she feels like that she has not been treated very well her whole life.
Yeah, she sort of realizes it. That was good. I liked her. And so like I said, the whole plot with Mr. King I thought was a little bit confusing. So one of the themes of the story is that he's this writer, and he has Alzheimer's, and so he tried to commit suicide.
Yes.
And so Yoon was there with him to help him. And he's not his actual son, but he was kind of his adopted son.
He was his student, and and Mr. Kong was his mentor, and so then they just bonded. And since he didn't have any family in his life, then Eunho was his person that was with him. Yeah.
And so Mr. Kang has another son, and all he knows about the son was that the son was born on the 23rd of April, right? And so he makes a book where he makes the title 23rd of April, even though it has nothing to do with the book.
Right.
As a way of talking to his son. Is that right?
Right. And I think he learned about his son when he was in the midst of Alzheimer's, so he wanted to make the title be that so he wouldn't forget about his son, even though he still kind of forgot.
And is that something that you're kind of like ashamed of, that you think in Korea, the idea of Alzheimer's, that you're like embarrassed about it? Or
I don't think that's necessarily a cultural thing. Probably just this character's thing.
Just this character, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that there's kind of this drama of him trying to help Mr. Kang, and also them trying to figure out, because so you have Sejun, who's also writing, and kind of the big reveal is that he's the son. He's the 23rd of April son. Right. And that in this book that they figured out that Sojun is right, that this mysterious novel that they got called The Heroes, they thought was Mr. Kang's, is actually Sojun's book.
Right.
Anyway, so there's all kinds of intrigue with that. And what did you think about all of that?
I love it. I think that most, like you were saying, it feels very light, and then all of a sudden they throw in kind of this darker story. I think that's a very typical K-drama thing. Even in the light, fluffy romance ones, there's always a deeper underlying story that makes you think, that brings out some lesson to be learned or some message that they wanted to put across, or there's just always a sad backstory that they have. And so that's just part of the whole experience, I think, of watching a K-drama. And I love it when they have these mysterious things and then it ends up tying all our characters together like that. I think it's cool.
What do you think they were trying to say about Alzheimer's and about this character?
I just think that the character was a really popular author and he didn't want to go out with people thinking of him as failing like that. So he wanted to disappear instead. And I don't know if that was the thing. Were they trying to say something about being ashamed of Alzheimer's? I think this character just had an issue with it, but then in the end, he changed his mind, right? He changed his mind, and in his will, he said, "Tell everybody that what happened." And then they did the new issue, and they let everybody know what really happened to him. So
yeah, because you have sort of age being a theme throughout the whole series. So I think it kind of works in the sense that you have her as not older, but as a mature woman with experience, not able to get a job. You have the 3 women that are, well, I guess the women that all get drunk together. I guess it's 4 women, including our lead character.
Our silly girl, yeah.
Yeah,
our main character and a silly girl.
They get drunk together, and there's a sort of older women that are just kind of corporate women and what they've had to sacrifice along the way, and that's kind of a theme also. And so I think that sort of age and respecting the elderly, and it's kind of a theme of respecting experience, not just respecting the whole person, not just their age.
And that is a Korean cultural thing, for sure. Respecting age and looking up to people older than you and with more experience than you, definitely a thing.
And so we have the 2 female bosses that are unlucky in love. You said that the silly, they get all drunk, and it's Miss Go, and so you have the one that, and then you also have the couple that are in the divorce. Their son is in the hospital. So those are the 3 women, in addition to our lead character who has the daughter and can't get a job. And so you kind of have her, and you get like a little bit of a relationship between Mr. Kim and Miss Go. And what do you think of kind of all that, those characters?
The thing that I find interesting is at first we don't like them. They're really mean. She's really mean to our main character, the Mrs. Go. And then it's like by the end, she's learned from our main character. She's learned to be more charitable and compassionate, and she's the one that ends up changing the rule of the company to accept people of any background or education or whatever. And she's the one that probably makes her book get published. She's the one that changes everything, even though you think that she's this awful, cold-hearted person.
Yeah.
And then the other one, she does drive me crazy for the most part. The one that gets divorced from the guy that they're working together.
Yeah.
His son's in the hospital. She's a weird character. But she's still, you can tell she's a friendly one and wants to, include Danny and all the things. So
I think they were trying to just show like different kinds of relationships. Like I do kind of like the fact that not every single couple ended up like this perfect happy ending, that there was one that's a little more complicated. And then you also have the one lady who almost got engaged. Well, she was engaged. She almost got married to this man, and then later on, she ends up meeting him, and he's now runs a restaurant,
a delivery service,
that they've ordered from, and it turns out he has children, is married, and
it sounds like he's struggling. Because he's just in a delivery service, which is probably not that great of a job.
Right.
So,
But he said that, because she said, why are you not working in the stock market or something like that?
Yeah.
And but that was interesting. And then there's also the two kind of young people in the office. I think it's Hoon and Yi.
Park Hoon and
Park Hoon.
Ji Yul.
And anyway, and they have all kinds of shenanigans. At one point, they they are kind of tipsy, and they end up sleeping on the conference room table. And they just go ahead and have the conference meeting right there with them, which was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
And
those two crack me up. That guy, the guy that plays that character, has been in a lot of dramas recently, and he's always sort of the quirky side character or the friend of the main lead or whatever. But I just love him. I think he's so good.
Yeah, he was funny. She ends up kind of co-opting his apartment for a certain period of time,
which makes me crazy. Like, why does he leave? Just say, if you're going to come here, fine. I'm going to still sleep here too.
Yeah. I guess is that scandal in their culture?
Yeah, it is. I think so.
So yeah, he goes to the sauna and sleeps there.
Yeah, because the saunas there are places people sleep over all the time, so people can sleep there. Yeah.
Yeah. And they end up falling in love in the end, and it was cute. I liked it.
It is really cute. It's so fun.
Yeah. One thing I thought was interesting. So this is set in a publishing house, and there is no talk about ebooks hardly at all.
Yeah, I saw that you mentioned that, and I don't know why that is. I think they just wanted to emphasize the love of books. So, and there was so much book holding and book, hugging and book smelling and book flipping through the pages. So I just think that was just a part of whatever message they wanted to get across. I did, in one of his lectures, we got to hear one of his lectures for a minute, and he did talk about ebooks for a second in that lecture, I remember. But yeah, I don't know why. I think they just wanted to push the love of books.
Yeah, they even talk about smelling the books a lot.
Yes. I'm like, I understand. I get this. I get it.
Yeah. And my last question that I had is that Danny, her clothes are very oversized. Is that a thing in Korea?
No, that's just her style. That's just the character's style.
Okay.
Clothes and fashion is a huge thing, but every drama you're going to watch, everybody's going to have different style. So that was just Danny's style. So
yeah. I didn't love it.
Really?
No.
I thought it looked really comfortable. I'm like,
it didn't look
the sweaters looked hot. She wore so many sweaters, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would die of heat. But
she's got such a cute little figure. I'm like, why are you swimming in all these clothes?
There's some other dramas that are really popular right now that people are just dying over the clothes that the female lead is wearing, and they are definitely different from what you've seen in this one. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you think about it, like Annie Hall, or where she's kind of wearing the men's kind of look, and you've seen that, and it's kind of a similar aesthetic in a way, kind of this a more androgynous kind of look. That's but yeah.
Was it your favorite, huh?
No, I didn't love her clothes. I was like, why is she swimming in these clothes? They're so big on her. And but I mean, it's not a big deal, their clothes. But yeah, overall I enjoyed it. I thought that that the comedy worked more than the drama. I liked each of the little side romances quite a bit. And I thought that especially individual scenes, like I was saying, she's flipping out about the dumplings. I thought that was funny. So it was really interesting. Would you say that this is different? How would you say this compares to other K-dramas?
This is a very typical rom-com drama.
Okay.
Very typical. Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's going to be other dramas in all those other genres that I was talking about that are completely different. And there are some dramas where, and I don't really know how to categorize them, but they just are more dramatic, and there's still funny parts, but then the focus is more on the kind of the deeper story, or more of the suspense or whatever. but this one is definitely a rom-com, and it's very typical of what a rom-com is like. Some of the rom-coms are even sillier. I was wondering if the silliness bothered you. Sometimes for my first one, I felt like it was one of the things that bothered me was that it seemed really overacted. Like when they cry, they just sob, or when they laugh, or when they're silly and drunk, they're crazy over the top. And I remember feeling a little cringy during my first couple. I've gotten very used to it now, and I actually really like kind of the overacting. But it's kind of something you have to get used to. This one actually doesn't do that much. There's some rom-coms that are very silly, and with the way they edit it, they'll add funny sound effects and silly things on top of it, and sometimes I find it fun, and sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys are really pushing it here.
Yeah.
But so this one was not quite as silly as some of the ones I watched. Yeah.
I think I enjoyed the humor for the most part in this. And there were a few moments where it was a little much, maybe with that younger pairing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They definitely overacted for them. But that's supposed to be their silly, quirky characters, right? Yeah.
So very good. Well, if any of you have seen this series, Romance is a Bonus Book, let us know your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it or your favorite K-dramas. Let us know. That would be really fun to talk about. And thank you so much for coming on the show. This was so much fun to get to talk about. And why don't you tell people where they can find your channel and what you do?
Okay, so you can find, if you just look at the K-pop Converters with a K on YouTube, you'll find the YouTube there. We also have a website, kpopconverters.com, where you can find all the links to all the places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Twitter mostly. Twitter, I'm very active. And then I was going to say that some of the things I listed to talk about dramas, I'll put on my blog. I have a book blog, sueysbooks.blogspot.com, and I will put this list there so people can go if they want kind of a more in-depth look at some of the things. And I'm going to put some recommendations there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So some of the things that I know are available on Netflix in all these different categories we're talking about, I just came up with a little bit of a list. So you can find that on my blog when I post it. Yeah.
So that'll be great. I'll have all that in the description section. Make sure you guys check it out. I think that'll be very interesting. And thanks again. I really appreciate you doing this. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. And make sure you're following the Hallmarkies Podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. We really need those, especially coming up for Christmas. We need people to be able to find our podcast. And then if you are watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is a lot of fun, and we're going to have live watch-alongs. And we can talk about, if you get in our Facebook Patreon group, we can talk about K-dramas if you want. We talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's really fun. And we also have our merch store, which has some really fun designs. So please check that out. Thanks so much, Suey, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.